The first night shift after I'd come close to the mausoleum felt different. I couldn't shake the unease. It gnawed at me like a relentless hunger, growing stronger with each step I took through the graveyard. The shadows were longer than usual, and the wind felt colder, more biting. I was alone again, as I had been the night before. The silence in the graveyard felt heavy, almost suffocating. But there was something else in the air, something I couldn't quite place. It was as though the graveyard itself was holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. I walked the same paths, sweeping the leaves from between the gravestones, trying to keep my mind busy. But no matter how hard I tried to concentrate on my tasks, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. The trees seemed to lean in closer, their twisted branches reaching toward me like skeletal arms. Every rustle of wind made my skin crawl, and every snap of a twig sent my heart into overdrive. I passed by the mausoleum again, its doors still slightly ajar. The whispers from earlier that day echoed in my mind, chilling my bones. "Come closer," they had said. I stood there for a moment, staring at the mausoleum. The moonlight filtered through the branches above, casting eerie shadows on the ground. The door beckoned me again, its dark opening calling me closer. But this time, something inside me told me to stay away. I turned and walked past it, not looking back. The wind picked up, sending a cold shiver down my spine. It was then that I heard it. A faint scratching sound, like something moving across the stone floor. It was coming from inside the mausoleum. The hairs on the back of my neck stood on end. I stopped dead in my tracks, my breath caught in my throat. I was sure I had heard it this time, clear as day. The scratching grew louder, more frantic. It was as if someone, or something, was trying to escape from inside. I shouldn't have gone back. I should have followed the rules, just like everyone else. But curiosity had already taken hold of me, and I couldn't resist. Slowly, cautiously, I walked toward the mausoleum, the sound of my footsteps unnervingly loud in the stillness. The closer I got, the more the temperature seemed to drop. The air felt thick, almost suffocating. The smell of damp earth mixed with something else, something rotten, decayed. I was almost at the door when it happened. The scratching stopped. The silence that followed was deafening. I pushed the door open a little wider, my pulse racing in my ears. The faint light from the moon barely illuminated the inside, but I could make out the outlines of old stone crypts and dust-covered tombs. And then I saw it. A shadow, tall and thin, moved across the far wall. At first, I thought it was just my imagination, a trick of the light. But then it moved again, this time closer. I could hear soft, dragging footsteps, as if something or someone was slowly making its way toward me. My heart pounded in my chest, and I felt the blood drain from my face. I wanted to turn and run, but my legs wouldn't move. I was frozen, rooted to the spot by a fear that I couldn't explain. And then the whispers started again, this time clearer, sharper. "Come closer." I couldn't help myself. My feet moved on their own, stepping closer to the dark void of the mausoleum. I reached the threshold and stopped, staring into the darkness. I could feel the air growing colder, the hairs on the back of my neck standing up. Something in the shadows was watching me. I could feel its eyes on me, though I couldn't see anything clearly, but I could feel it. I swallowed hard, the taste of metal in my mouth. My body trembled, but I couldn't turn away. The whispers grew louder, more insistent. "Come closer." Without thinking, I stepped into the mausoleum. The door creaked behind me, closing shut with a loud bang. My heart skipped a beat. Panic surged through me, but it was too late to turn back now. The air was thick with the smell of decay, and the floor beneath my feet felt damp, like it had been soaked with something foul. I glanced around, my eyes straining to adjust to the dim light. I could make out the outlines of old stone crypts and broken, crumbling tombs. But what caught my eye was the old crypt in the far corner. It was larger than the others, its stone face covered in symbols that I couldn't recognize. A strange feeling washed over me, as if this was where it all began. The whispers seemed to be coming from this crypt, pulling me closer. I took a step toward it, but my feet felt like they were stuck in the dirt, each movement slow and heavy. Suddenly, the shadows in the corner moved again. This time, I saw something shift. A figure, pale and gaunt, standing in the dark. My blood ran cold. I couldn't move. My breath caught in my throat, and for a moment, I thought I was going to pass out. The figure stepped into the light, its face twisted with a grotesque grin. Its eyes were hollow, black pits of nothingness. I could feel its gaze on me, cold and lifeless. And then, it spoke. "You shouldn't have come." The words were like ice, freezing me in place. My mind raced, but I couldn't move. The figure took another step forward, and that's when I realized there was no way out. I had broken the rule, and now something was waiting for me, something that would not let me leave.
I don't know how long I stood there, staring at the figure in the mausoleum. Time seemed to stretch, the air thick with dread. My legs felt like lead, and my mind raced. I wanted to run. I wanted to scream, but my body wouldn't respond. I was trapped, unable to do anything but stare at those empty, soulless eyes. "You shouldn't have come," the figure said again, its voice like gravel scraping against stone. It stepped closer, and I felt the air grow colder. The temperature in the mausoleum had dropped to a level that made my breath visible in the thick, heavy silence. I could feel the cold crawling down my spine, a slow, creeping chill that turned my bones to ice. I opened my mouth to speak, but no words came out. My throat was dry, constricted, as if something was pressing down on me from all sides. My heart hammered in my chest, each beat louder than the last. The figure was now standing just a few feet away, its skeletal hand reaching out toward me. Suddenly, I snapped out of it. I couldn't let it happen. I couldn't stand there, frozen, and let whatever this was take me. With a burst of panic-fueled adrenaline, I forced my feet to move. I turned and sprinted toward the door. But the ground beneath me seemed to shift. My feet slid, and the floor felt like it was moving beneath me, as if the mausoleum itself was alive, trying to swallow me whole. I stumbled, my hands reaching out to catch myself, but I couldn't find solid ground. The walls seemed to close in around me, the darkness thickening like a living thing. The whispers returned, louder now, more insistent. "Stay with us," they said, their voices like 1,000 people speaking at once, all demanding my attention. "Come back." I pushed myself harder, my breath ragged and panicked. I reached the door, but it wouldn't open, as if something was holding it shut, something far more powerful than the simple wooden barrier that should have been there. My hands flew to the handle, pulling with all my strength, but the door didn't budge. The figure was still there, its grin widening with each passing second. It knew I couldn't escape. It knew I had broken the rule. I turned back around, desperate for a way out. The mausoleum was closing in on me, the walls narrowing, and the air growing thicker with every second. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. It was as if I was drowning in darkness. The temperature was unbearable now, and my skin prickled with the cold. I felt like I was being consumed, suffocated by the place. Then, in the midst of my panic, something shifted. A faint light appeared from the far corner of the mausoleum. It was soft at first, just a flicker, but it grew brighter as I watched. It illuminated the stone walls, revealing more crypts, more shadows, more of the unsettling space that seemed to stretch endlessly in all directions. I took a step toward the light, my instincts guiding me despite the fear that paralyzed me. I didn't know what it was, but something about it felt different. It wasn't like the oppressive darkness that surrounded me. It wasn't cold. It didn't feel like death. I moved closer, drawn by the light, and when I reached the source, I saw what it was. An old lantern sitting atop a stone pedestal. The lantern flickered, casting a soft, golden glow across the room. The shadows that had once seemed so menacing now seemed to retreat from the light. I hesitated for a moment, unsure if touching it would make things worse, but my hand was already reaching out, almost on its own. When my fingers brushed the cold metal of the lantern, I felt a sudden jolt, like a shock running through my body. I yanked my hand back, my heart racing. But then I realized something. My body felt lighter. The crushing weight of the mausoleum was lifting. The oppressive air was starting to clear. I took a deep breath and moved toward the lantern again, this time with more confidence. As my hand closed around it, the room seemed to change. The walls of the mausoleum no longer felt like they were closing in. The air lightened, the whispers faded, and I could breathe again. The coldness receded, replaced by an eerie calm. But I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. I looked over my shoulder, and there it was. The figure stood just behind me, its pale face now twisted in anger. Its mouth was moving, but no words came out. Instead, a terrible, high-pitched screech filled the room, vibrating the very walls. I stumbled back, the lantern still in my hands. The screeching grew louder, more intense, until it felt like my ears would explode. The figure's eyes locked onto mine, and for the first time, I saw something dark, something hungry. The thing in front of me wasn't human. It wasn't anything that could ever be alive again. I tried to push past the terror that gripped me. I had to get out. I had to escape. But the more I focused on the figure, the more my mind screamed for me to run. And yet, I couldn't move. Then, just as quickly as it had started, the screeching stopped. The figure stood motionless, still grinning. I turned toward the door again, hoping it would open. This time, it did. With a creak, the heavy door groaned open, and the cold night air flooded in. I didn't think twice. I bolted through the door, the lantern still clutched in my hands. The graveyard was just as I had left it, silent and still, but the sense of unease had not gone away. The whispers lingered, a faint echo in the back of my mind. I didn't stop running until I was back at the caretaker's cabin. I slammed the door behind me and locked it, my hands shaking uncontrollably. My chest heaved as I tried to calm myself, but the terror refused to let go. I couldn't stay there. I couldn't keep ignoring the warning. I had broken the rule, and now the consequences were real. The night was far from over, and I had just uncovered the first of many horrors that this place had to offer.